Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go. Kevin here, top 1 financial advisor and best-selling author. We are here to talk about the stock market. Today, I wanted to answer a question that I got inside the members only. I thought it was so valuable that I think everybody should learn from it, and said, look, this is a question that I had when I started investing. I think there are many people out there that run into the same situation as well, or at least a very similar situation. So what I'm going to do is summarize the question because it was quite long and gave us a lot of valuable context, which I think was helpful for me to answer said question. But I'm going to summarize it, or read it, summarize it, and then give you what my answer and what my thoughts are and my thinking process, which I think is the most valuable piece. Okay, so I was wondering if you may be able to give some advice. I may need to completely close out my public account because they use the money to start a new side hustle, which is really cool. They're going to sell sports cards, DVDs, soccer jerseys, and so forth on eBay. I think that's really interesting. And then it's been a few weeks, been a little bit of sales, but also they had a furnace that went out too and had to take a loan on that. They've already switched and made some other changes in their budget, going to YouTube TV, which is actually one of my favorite streaming services, away from DirecTV because that was too expensive, and it's making that DCA budget, dollar cost averaging budget, really, really small. So the consideration is, well, should I sell out my public account and pay for some of these things, and should I just go ahead and close it out because I'm only gonna have $100 or $200 in there? Is it worth keeping open at all? So what are my thoughts here? Let's start with this. So one, I think is the most important thing. Nobody pays me for any of these apps unless nobody pays me period unless you're in the members only, you're buying a book, you're buying a course or something like that. So whatever apps and tools and things that you see me mention, they don't pay me for that. They don't. Okay. So I don't work. I get a tag for working for certain companies. I actually don't. I'm just here. I don't work for Instagram either. I don't work for YouTube. I'm just here, and trying to help you become a better investor. So unless you are clicking any of these links, I'm usually not getting paid for it. So that kind of gives you where I am and what my mindset is. So that's number one. So whether or not you close any account, it's not going to benefit or hurt me, right? So I'm giving you my own unbiased advice based on my experience and my expertise. So that's the disclosure. Second thing, does it make sense to sell? It certainly could for a few reasons. One, it was an emergency, right? If your furnace goes out, your AC goes out, you blow a tire, you need a new one to get to and from work. That happens. And you have to be careful about what you sell. So first, your first layer of defense is why I always say that your savings account is one of your best investing tools, because it protects you from having to sell from an account at public or an IRA or anything like that. I don't want to touch those. I would prefer not to touch those. But if there is an emergency that pops up and it's too large for my savings, I don't want to take 100% of my savings right now. Maybe I'm taking $2,000 or $3,000 and giving that up now, right, to take care of something. If I need additional, the first place I'm actually going to go is my taxable account after my savings. So I've got my savings first, then I'm going to my taxable account. What do I mean by taxable account? I mean non-retirement accounts, not traditional IRA, not a Roth, and not a 401k. The reason why I don't want to touch those, your traditional and your 401k, the reason why I don't want to touch those is because I am under the age of 59 and a half. So if I withdraw now, even to get something fixed in my car, even to get something fixed on my house, I'm going to have to pay a 10% penalty, and I'm going to have to pay income taxes. I don't want to do that. I would prefer not to do that. So two ways I can get around that is using some of my assets, perhaps it's on public or TD Ameritrade, and perhaps using the contributions that I put inside of a Roth IRA, because you can pull out what you put into a Roth IRA. Example, I put in $1,000, it grew to $2,500. With that $1,000 I've already been taxed on it, I can actually take that out too. That's going to hurt me in the future, right? That's $1,000 more that could have been growing. However, the emergency is now, right? And it's not it's not a vacation, right? This is an actual emergency and a business venture that we hope to make tens of thousands, right? And people do that. So it does make sense. And the other half of this question was, does it make sense to close the account because it's only going to be $100 or $200 left? It is my belief that it is easier to come back to something that is already there and was never closed to begin with. So if you have to close it and then come back, let's say in 2023, which is what they said, they've already gotten their budget set for next year. I'm going to start back and kind of build everything back up. One, great, because you definitely want to keep investing and rebuilding in time that you need to withdraw money. Makes sense. But the other half of the question is, should I close it? I think you should keep it open, and that's for any investing account, because it's another barrier that I don't want to have to deal with. Because sometimes you're like, look, most of us are sometimes lazy. Like, do I want to close out my Facebook account and start all the way over from fresh, all over my Instagram account, my public account? No, because I post things on there, at least for me. For me, I post things on there, and I don't have to start from scratch and build everything back up. I would rather, not you have to have any money in it, but I would rather just like, hey, here's where I invest, and when I'm ready, I don't have to go and re-download the full app and do all that stuff. It's just already there, hit deposit, and get started investing immediately, as opposed to name, email, address, bank account, and doing all that stuff. Could it be done in 10 minutes? Or even 5, it could, but why put a barrier there if I don't have to? So that's me. Even if you have to withdraw 100% from any account, I prefer personally just to have it open so I can slide right back in there whenever I am ready. That is just my preference. I think most people would agree. But when it comes to withdrawing, there are other things you want to be aware of. So obviously savings first, then your taxable brokerage account, and then maybe a Roth. But again, I really want to, anything that has IRA or 401k with it, I want to kind of keep those as safe as possible and not withdraw from those whenever possible. But when it comes to your taxable account, your account on public in this case, be careful about what you spend, about what you sell. Because there are certain tax rules based on what your income is and what you sell and whether you sold for a gain or a loss. So if I am personally selling, what I'm going to do is go through my portfolio and see what is negative. Because if I sell that, if I've held it for 1 year or more, more than a year, then I can sell that and write it off of my taxes if I sold for a loss. If I sold for a gain, I may be subject to capital gains taxes. If I've held it for more than a year and I sell it, then that tax rate is going to be lower. So those are things I would be looking for. How long have I held it, and was it a gain or a loss? And I would sell anything, especially for an emergency, anything that's for a loss, I'm going to sell those things first. Hopefully that's all I need, right? So right now for me, I think Adobe is down 16% or so for me. I'm selling Adobe first. I've had it for more than a year. It's down. I might gotta talk to my accountant. I might be able to write a little bit off on my income taxes. Boom. Next would probably be IBM. If I needed to continue selling, then maybe I'll sell a little bit of Apple or a little bit of Google, because I've had it for a while, so it's going to get taxed at a lower rate. And I'm probably have a little too much, honestly. If I'm looking to keep my portfolio balanced, probably got a little too much Apple. I might have a little bit too much Google. I already sold half of Amazon, if you remember. So it's already one that I've trimmed down. So that is how I would personally approach it. Now, if you had to sell it all because the expense was that big, then you're going to have to sell it all, and that's understandable. What I want you to understand, that's everybody here, is that I talk about dollar cost averaging, I talk about being consistent, but life happens. Like, for example, I had an account at TD Ameritrade, which is still open, but I had to sell like $5,000 worth of stock because we needed the extra money to buy this house. And the problem came up. I was like, look, I've used my savings. I don't want to tax my entire savings. I got other stuff, right? So I sold a portion of, or I took out a portion from my savings, and we had some money left over. And I said, look, I might sell some of this for a loss, but I can sell a portion of my assets at TD and use it here. And now we have the house. And that happens, right? There are people every now and then, it's like, hey, I gotta pause for a little bit because inflation is high, emergency happens. It is okay. We would prefer in a perfect world to never touch it and to allow it to continue growing. But in real life, you have to make these strategic decisions. And the key here is, if you have to do it, go for the taxable. Don't touch the retirement accounts, because those are the ones that really, really hurt you. And you never want to use this like a savings account where you're putting in and taking out and putting in and taking out. That's going to put you in a bad situation too, which is not the case here. So again, my answer is I would keep it open. It does make sense to sell because you ran into an emergency and you're looking to start a business. Every business is going to be different. So anybody else who has a business idea, I can't advise you. I don't know. Right? I don't know what the profit margin is going to look like and all that, so I can't give you the math here. However, if I'm going to sell or start a business, if I run into an emergency, I'm going for my cash savings first, which is why it's always important to have that, and then I'm going for my taxable assets. I prefer to never touch them. However, if I have to, that is your best bet. All right, that is it for me. I'm going to a party this weekend with a princess because it's my daughter's birthday. It's my daughter's birthday party. She's the one who's featured in the beginning of all these videos. So hopefully that's not expensive and I don't have to sell anything to pay for it, because kids are quite expensive. All right, so that's it for me. I will see y'all on Monday. If you have a question that you want me to answer, because remember, I like answering these questions even when people open the garage in the middle of a recording. But in either case, let me know what your questions are, and that's it. I'll catch y'all Monday.